What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. I have an incredibly exciting guest today. I've got Sharad, the owner of ReSimpli, which is a super powerful CRM that some of our members in the community are using and a lot of my friends in the industry are using. And Sharad himself is a real estate investor. He's been doing it for quite some time. I know you're in the Indianapolis market, or you have been in the Indianapolis market. You've kind of seen everything from, the wholesaling, the flipping, the buy and hold, and you've got such a deep experience as a user yourself. I'd love to hear your story a little bit about how you got into real estate and how it led up to ReSimpli as a software.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, thank you for having me on the podcast, man. So just a small correction. I'm not in Indianapolis market. I'm in Indiana market, but Lake County, Indiana. It's right outside of Chicago. So I bought my first property in August 2010. I used to live in Chicago, downtown Chicago at that point. I was a full-time accountant for one of the largest accounting firms. Just wanted passive income. I loved the company I was working for, but I didn't like the work that I was doing. So I started looking at what I, wanted to do, have freedom of time and money. Wanted to be a full-time poker player at one point. Absolutely sucked at it. Horrible poker face. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to work out for me. So I was a lot into personal finance. Came across a blog, Get to Rich Slowly was the blog I used to follow. And someone in one of the blog comments had mentioned a book called Flip. I read that book, and then, Amazon has this feature, suggest a book or something. I don't know what's it called. So from there, I bought Millionaire Real Estate Investor. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. Sounds, I read the book, definitely related to it. And then bought my first 2-unit in East Chicago, Indiana. I still own that property to this day. It was listed for 65 or 75. I bought it for 25, put 10 into it. It was rented for 1,200. I still have it. I think it's rented for about 1,700 now.
Wow.
Bought a 3-unit the month after. I'm like, this is crazy. This is 2010. Decided to leave my job after I had another 4-unit under contract. I thought this is like the opportunity of a lifetime. It's never going to come back again, but given what the prices are. So decided to leave my job, do it full time. And then it kind of just, got very aggressive with buying rental properties. So I own about 60 units now. 55 of those units I paid for free and clear. But majority of them were bought in 2010 to 2014, 15 time period. And after that, after doing a couple of years, I started doing some flipping, some wholesaling. And then in August 2015, I moved to Carlsbad, where I live now. In between, I moved to Canada, but I live in Carlsbad now. And I was doing about 40, 50 flips a year, started looking at the software I would need in my business. Poly was pretty much the only thing everyone was using. I just didn't like the way it looked. I just didn't like the idea of having to go out and buy all these different software to make my primary software. It just didn't appeal to me. So I hired a couple of developers in 2016 or 17, and that's how ReSimpli was born. And that's, I use it to this day. I still flip in Indiana. I have a remote team. It's me who live in Carlsbad, California. My project manager who manages all the flips lives an hour north of me, and my acquisition/lead manager lives in Philippines, and I have a cold caller in Philippines also. We don't have anyone local in Indiana market.
Yeah, that's incredible. There's a really unique aspect to this. I mean, the software obviously is phenomenal, but the unique aspect is, and I talk to people about this all the time. They get into real estate as an active venture to flip or to wholesale to create more active income typically. And then they just kind of keep doing that. And of course, they make a ton of top line money doing it. But then sometimes they're not buying assets to build wealth. And what's kind of interesting is you started off buying the assets to build wealth. Of course, timing is phenomenal in 2010. And then you decided to also add the active portion of this, the flipping and the wholesaling part. with did you run out of capital from your high paying finance job, or like what was the impetus to go from buying 50, 60 rentals to now I'm going to actually flip and wholesale some of these things?
So part of the reason was to get more capital, and the other was, once I started buying properties, I came across a portfolio of 25 properties that this local bank was selling, and as part of buying, like, we had to buy the entire portfolio. So I went through every single property. 6 or 7 properties were in an area that I didn't want to buy. So I had another local agent in the market. He was interested in buying those 6, 7 properties. I could have, like, of those 25 property, 2025, 6 or 7 made for really good rentals. The other made for really good turnkey properties. But there were 2 properties in there that would not make sense as a turnkey or a flip, or turnkey or a rental. So then we decided, let's just flip. So I was almost forced to get into flipping because we had to buy these properties as entire portfolio. But once I started doing that, I saw the cash infusion it would have into the business that I could use to pay down the properties, the short-term loans that I had on these properties, or buy more rental properties. So that was always the goal, was to use the active income from flips to buy more passive assets for me. So the idea was use this cash to buy back my time, so I could just be more free with what I want to do.
That's incredible. So at that time, you started making the active income. You were able to take that active capital and pay down loans, and you just created, I guess, a really tight security buffer for yourself, because now you have equity plus you have cash flow coming in, and it allows you to start making some interesting decisions, like to go into software, because that could be a black hole of money.
It has been. It definitely has been. It takes 3-4 times longer than you initially anticipate. Definitely takes a lot more money than you initially think it's going to take. Once you go down that path, there's so many. I don't come from the IT background. I come from accounting background. So there's a lot of stuff that I had no idea about. When I hired the initial developers, I just told them what I wanted done, and I didn't check in with them on a regular basis. I checked in with them like a month or 2 later, and they would present something to me. It would be totally different from what I had in my mind. So, you learn a lot of things from that. You hire some good people, but you hire a lot of bad people that cost you a lot of time and money. It's happened in the software business. It's happened in my house flipping business. It's happened in I own a property management company also. It's happened in there also. But it's a learning process. Yeah, definitely. I would not be doing what I'm doing right now with ReSimpli if I did not buy those rental properties. And also if I did not move from Chicago to California, because I did not realize how much inefficiency I had in my business until I was 4 hours flight away from where I was buying my properties. I was forced to have efficiencies in my business. I was forced to make decisions that I did not even consider when I was living in Chicago. I look back at it now and I realize how much inefficiency I had in my business. And I'm like, holy crap, I should have been doing what I'm doing now while I was living in Chicago and not run my business the way I was running back in the day.
Yeah. So back then you're in Chicago, which is probably a short drive to your market.
Yeah. 45 minutes drive. Yeah.
And you're going back and forth to these properties.
Exactly.
You're buying them. Yeah.
And
what would you say? Because a lot of people, I'm also virtual. Like I just moved to Florida, but I've done hundreds of deals here over the past couple of years. And people were like, how do you do it virtually? I'm like, better, because I'm not there to get mired down, and it forces you to build the right team too. So I'm curious, what did it do for you specifically? Like, what did you have to change in how you did business buying and selling real estate in Indiana from California?
Yeah, I think so. For example, when I was living in Chicago, if my plumber called me and said, hey, Sharad, there's a leak, I would literally drive down from Chicago to the house and see, yes, there's a leak. Let's fix it. I didn't have that option when I was living in California. I could not fly down. So I said, okay, why don't you go to the house, call me from the house, we'll do a video call, right? I could have done this in Chicago. I did not need to be in California in order to do this. Another thing that happened was I really started looking at, okay, what are the systems and processes I need in my business? So right around that time, I read the book E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber. I think that definitely had a big influence. We started systemizing a lot of things. We were doing a lot of turnkey properties back then, 2015, 16, 17, when I moved there. And I started looking at, okay, every turnkey property that we're doing, it doesn't need to look different from one another. These are rental properties. They never go on the market. They go on Zillow and whatnot. As long as we pick a set of finishes, we can apply to every single house. We pick good set of flooring, good set of cabinets, light fixtures, faucets, and the countertop and paint color. It can be the same for every single house. I think that took tons and tons of decisions out of what we were doing. And I started applying it to pretty much every aspect of my business, right? Like I wear the same t-shirt every single day. I have 12 of these. It's like, it doesn't add any value to me to wear a different t-shirt. Like, for example, Adam, you and I connected on a video call last week or 10 days. You have no idea what I was wearing. It's something that people don't even think about. I have no idea what you were wearing. So you start taking those decisions out and you're like, man, there's a lot of mental bandwidth that I was using on making certain decisions. Now you start imagining to every single thing. Now we buy a house. It's to the point the contractors only need to ask us if it's a flip or if it's a turnkey. If it's a turnkey, they don't even need to ask us what floor, what paint, what finishes, what flips. We have like 4 or 5 set of different finishes we go through because we're in a small market. So sometimes we would have 2 houses on the market on this at the same time, that are blocked from each other. So we mix up our finishes, but it's to the point where last week I was in Chicago, not because I wanted to see my properties, but my brother lives in Chicago. So I visited him, and I have not been to Indiana I'd not been to Indiana to look at my properties in last like 5 years. Even when I was there, I looked at one property, 11 unit property that we bought just to kind of, it was the first multi-unit we bought to go look at it. Other than that, we had 8 or 10 flips going on. I didn't go look at any one of them because it would not add any value for me to go look at it. We have contractors working on these projects that I've never talked to, that I've never seen. I just see their name and that's about it. Like my project manager, I've set up a separate bank account for her. She pays out of the bank account. But the thing that happened was once I moved there, first of all, I started adding system and process. The other thing was started making decisions based on the numbers. Everything had to be done based on the numbers. If my project manager says, hey, this project is going well or this project is not going well, all right, let's look at the numbers. Let's see what the numbers are telling us, rather than you telling me based on how your opinion of how the project is going. Let's just look at the numbers. We started making all the decisions based on number. If we're doing a flip, every project from the time we buy to the time it goes on the market has to be 90 days or less because we sell FHA. So that's why the 90 days. And then we set up incentives for my project manager. So the longer a project takes, the less money she makes on as incentive. So those sort of things, doing that, it just automatically started creating these efficiencies in our business where my project manager, she makes a lot more money from the bonus part of the business for every flip that we sell than she makes from the base. It works for me. All I have to do is look at the numbers on the business, on each project, and make sure it's something I'm okay with. And even on that, if any project is going to make us less than 15,000, after all the holding costs, interest cost, and everything, the project manager doesn't make anything. So the minimum we have to make 15, and then the more we make after that, she gets a percentage of the net profit.
Yeah, I love incentivized structure because I think one of the things we don't talk about a lot, or you don't hear talked about a lot as a small business owner. Like every little thing counts towards margin in a small business. Right. So when you can, and nobody cares more about your margin than you as the business owner. So when you can create a structure that all your team is aligned, so the business does great, you do great. The
Yeah.
business doesn't do well, then, we don't do well collectively. And it's not just the business suffering, because that's the kind of structure that will let you last. I mean, through markets, right? Even the last couple of years. And I can't wait to hear, because the next part I want to know is about user data and what you're seeing in the market. But even through the last couple of years, I would argue anecdotally, we've seen a lot of investors fall out of the market.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe you can validate that. But I think they fall out because business fundamentals, like create enough margin, be efficient with your spend, and stay on time and stay on budget, and all these things that are really the mechanics of being successful, is having like a strong business blueprint and systems and process.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that. It's the people that are treating this as a business are the ones that are successful in the long term. The ones that are treating it as, like a hustle, they will do some deals, but after a point of time, if you don't start adding systems and processes in your business, start treating it as a business, you will just fall out of this market.
Yeah, and those, some of those people who come in as a hustle, they can make a lot of money, but
Yeah.
it's just really hard to last through the cycles. Like, I'm sure you saw this too, and COVID to mid 22, the hedge funds turned the spigot on, and they were buying all kinds of deals at prices that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And you saw this influx of wholesalers come into the market and just feed the hedge funds for a long time. And then all of a sudden the hedge funds shut it off mid 2022, and they don't have a single buyer to dispo a deal to.
Exactly.
Two reasons. One, they're locking up deals at such a high price. The only person who would ever buy them was a hedge fund. And then two, there was no reason for them to go out and get, build a normal investor buyer list. So then I just saw these people completely fall off the map. And a lot of them said, you know what, I don't even want to be in the industry, because that was so easy, and doing it and building a business is not necessarily as easy. And I didn't do it right in the first place, so I don't want to go back and redo it all.
Absolutely. It's not an easy business to be in. When we look at the investors that are successful, I think one thing for them is, of course, they want to focus on the top line number without losing sight on the net income number. Right? It's amazing. I'm sure, Adam, you've seen this. So many investors, they're so focused on the vanity number just for the sake of growing that top line number. They want to get to a certain level of deals, like 50 deals or 100 deals, and they want to get to 7-figure revenue. But my question to them is, yes, you want to get to that number, but you don't want to get to that number at the expense of the net income that you have, right? And there's so much inefficiency when you think about real estate investor business, like kind of what wholesalers are doing, like any investor that's doing direct to seller marketing. It's essentially a marketing business, right? You stop your marketing, your leads stop coming in, and you have your deal flow stop coming in. There's some investors in there, they'll buy some stuff from MLS, like we buy some stuff from MLS or referral because we're flipping. But for the majority of the market, it's the direct to seller marketing. And then people that are not focused on the numbers, right? It's the which marketing channel that's working for them in the business. They're the ones who have a very tough time to run a sustainable long-term business. The investors that are successful, they want to grow their top line number, but they also want to look at the net profit number. Like anything below 30% on net profit. If you're making 1 million on top line, if you're making less than $250,000 to $300,000, either you're spending too much on marketing or you're spending too much on payroll. So you have overage in either marketing or payroll. And then if you're doing 30 to 40%, then you're in the good range. But once you start exceeding the 40% net profit number, that means you're running a very efficient business. So especially if you can get above 50%, if you have a really lean business, you're the only acquisition person in the business. So that's where you get above that 50%. And the biggest thing that we see that is typically investors will spend anywhere from like 25 to 35% on their marketing, another 25 to 35% on their payroll, whether you're paying yourself a salary or not, but you still got to calculate that number. Like if you are the the acquisition person, but you have to think of it, okay, if I were to replace myself and hire an acquisition person, like what would I pay? And that's how you calculate the numbers. So if you imagine if you can gain efficiency in your marketing. So for example, if you're doing, let's say direct mail, you're mailing to your absentee list, you're mailing to your probate list, and you're not tracking where the leads are coming from, which list you're making the money from, or which marketing channel that's working for you. We see so many investors that once they come to ReSimpli, they're using like one phone number to track their leads from, let's say direct mail and PPC, right? Their leads come in and they might spend $100,000 in marketing and they may make $300,000. But the question is, did you make the money from direct mail or did you make the money from PPC? If I gave you another $100,000 and you could only spend on one marketing channel between direct mail and PPC, which one would you do? So that's where you got to really deep dive into which marketing channel is working for me. Because if you can gain efficiency in that marketing channel, and let's say if it was PPC that was working for you and direct mail wasn't. Now imagine if you can cut out direct mail and just double down on PPC and you increase your ROI on that. So ROI would be for every dollar that you put into marketing, how much revenue comes back into your business. Anything less than 3x, I would cut out. 3 to 5x is good. And anything over 5x, like just keep doubling down on that marketing channel. So if you can see that you're making, let's say 5x on PPC and you were only making 2x on direct mail, and if I give you another 100,000, you would want to double down on PPC and cut out direct mail. And that's where the money that you save on cutting out on marketing, that goes directly into your net profit. Not just that, but the efficiency that you have now, you have less junk leads that you have to go through. You have a leaner business, but a much more profitable business to run.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, because you do it yourself. You have users doing it. The market, I feel so. We've been doing direct mail for a long time, and I mean there was a point in time where it was like a 7-to-1 return, and the response rate was 2 or 3%. Like it was insane. And now you're lucky to get a 0.5% response rate, and returns are 2 to 3x at best, I think, in a lot of places. What are you seeing today across, either in your company or across your users in terms of what marketing the data tells you is working?
I think inbound, definitely. So that would be your PPC, SEO, pay per lead, TV, radio. Those are definitely working better than cold calling or SMS. Direct mail is one of those marketing channels that's like, it's on the fence between inbound or outbound marketing channel, right? Like some people call it inbound, some people call it outbound. What we call outbound is if you had to pull a list of people to target, then that's outbound. If you just target without pulling a list, that's inbound. So TV, radio, PPC, you're not pulling a list to target to those. So that would be your inbound. Direct mail is like, it's on the fence, inbound, outbound, but definitely investors that are doing well are investing more money into inbound marketing, especially as your texting and calling is getting more regulated. The more you're investing in inbound marketing, the better those investors are doing. But one thing I will say that we've noticed is the investors that are successful, that are doing consistent deals, minimum 4 deals per month, all the way up to 30, 35 deals a month, they have, whether they're using any other marketing channel or not, they have some piece of direct mail in their business. Now, the ones that are doing really well, they're not pulling this huge list of absentee or owner occupied. They have a very niche list that they're going after. And they've been able to do that by tracking their data. Like we have some investors that are doing, 25, 30 deals a month. And I kid you not, they're using like 100 different tracking numbers for their direct mail, because to them, data is like, that's their biggest advantage that they have over someone else. Like imagine if you have $10,000 budget to spend on direct mail, would you rather spend on absentee owners or homeowners with equity, or would you spend it on absentee owners that own 2 or more properties with 50 years of age and they live out of state with their primary residence? Like if you can get that specific with your list, now instead of spending $10,000, you could spend the $2,000 and still get all the deals that you were getting before without spending additional $8,000 in your business. So those are the investors. The ones that are doing really well have very specific lists for direct mail that they're going after typically, and they're investing more into the inbound marketing. Most of them I see not focus heavily, the big investor not doing texting or cold calling. It's not a big part of their business anymore, if it is even a part of their business.
Yeah. And I think the kind of back half of that too is, and by the way, I agree. Like I looked at our marketing last year. I was sitting down with my CEO, Lindsay, and I'm like, oh man, we should get rid of this PPL channel because everybody's saying it's terrible. And she's like, what are you talking about? We have a 4x return on that.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's the only thing we should be spending money on. And I kind of got blinded by the narrative around this particular PPL channel and Need to Sell My House Fast. Everybody's like, it's terrible. And we spent last year 120,000 and we made 470 on that one channel.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually incredible. Yeah. Like we should double down on that. And it's been our best driver of deals. But even today, I tell people that I'm not kidding. Like I will show you my numbers and show you my deals and everything. People will go, okay, I'll try it. And they'll dabble in it and then they'll waste money and then they'll shut it off. But I think the back end part that I was alluding to is what you do with those leads when they come into your business, because it like speed to lead, like getting on those leads very quickly and not accepting face value. So what I mean by that is we could get a lead with an incorrect number and we don't just go, oh, the number's incorrect. We go deep dive on that lead to find more numbers. We skip trace it. We call it from multiple numbers at multiple different times. And we also dispute anything in dispute criteria very succinctly. Like we're on top of, we have a whole process for that and we don't miss those. And that's really the part I think that people miss. It's like you actually have to put the work into those leads. But if 100%. You do, you have an opportunity to get a 4x or better return. And it was just, to me, I always hear the negative talk about this PPL channel or that PPL. I tried it and all the leads were garbage or they were listed. It's but you don't know your numbers.
Yeah. I mean, if you put it in a different context, it's like people that want to lose weight, right? It's everything, whether it's real estate investing or whether it's like you want to improve something, it comes down to consistency. Investors, like one thing for sure, 100% without exception, the investors that are successful, by successful, I mean they're consistently doing deals, whether it's one deal per month for them, that's what they're able to handle, or 30 deals per month. They're consistent with their marketing. Without exception, they're consistent, whatever their marketing channel might be. At the end of the day, every marketing channel works. SMS, cold calling, PPC, everything works. It's different need for different investor. I don't want to say that cold calling SMS doesn't work. It's harder to do cold calling and SMS now, but it still works. People are still making money, but they're very, very consistent with their marketing. You hear so many investors, just like you mentioned, they will do direct mail, they will do PPC, PPL and say, oh, this doesn't work. No, it does work. It did not work for you. It should not. It's like just going to gym. Like you cannot go to gym for 1 week and say, oh, I was 300 pounds. I'm not 200 pounds anymore. So going to gym doesn't work, or going on a low fat or low carb, whatever diet doesn't work because you only did it for a week. No, it's something you have to commit to day in, day out. It becomes your second nature that you don't even have to think about. And that's the same thing with business, is like doing the dirty work, right? Knowing your numbers, right? If someone says direct mail doesn't work, my question, okay, let's look at your leads and let's see what you did, right? If a lead called in, did you pick up the phone, right? Did you get in touch with them? Or the lead called in and you didn't call them back for a week, right? How would you ever be able to sustain in the business if the leads are coming in, you're not answering the phone, right? The investors that are successful, the ones where teams are, they listen to their call recording, good calls, bad calls. They use good calls as an example of what they should be doing more of, and they look at the bad calls of what they should be doing less of. It's very simple thing. They're not doing anything extraordinary, but they're doing the good things, the right things day in, day out without fail. They look at their numbers, they make their decisions based on the numbers. They're getting in touch with their leads as soon as possible. Like you mentioned, speed to lead, right? They're getting in touch with those leads within a minute or 2 minutes of from the time the lead comes in. Imagine if you're able to get in touch with the lead within 30 to 45 seconds from the time someone submits a form versus waiting a week. I mean, of course, the person who's getting in touch with the lead within a 60 seconds of the lead coming in is going to have much higher chance of closing that deal versus you waiting for a week to get in touch with the lead. So those are the things that people don't realize are very, very important part of. It's not just you do marketing, but there's a lot of things on the back end that you need to do to be successful.
Yeah, I think you find it's actually pretty easy to buy leads. It's like that's not the most complex.
That's the easy part.
Yeah. Well, it's having a good systematic process. Like even the way you approach sales. Do you work it in the same way every single time and have a system and a process? Like in our company, Lindsay runs a sales team. She has a very specific system and process that she takes each conversation on. And we can then dissect what's working, what's not working, because we do it consistently over time. It just is what it's business 101. It's not even unique to real estate, in my opinion. Absolutely. It's you got to do something consistently over longer periods of time to get real data that has what they call significance backing it, so that you can go, it is or is not working, to your point. So that's incredible. Talking about systems and process, being in this industry and helping other investors and just having so many friends in the industry, you always hear the new folks, they come up and they go, hey, what's the best CRM? And it's like the one that you will learn and use 100%. Most consistently and master that particular tool. What does make a good CRM? Like what should an investor be looking for in a good CRM?
I mean, yeah, first of all, like what you said, Adam, is 100% right. Whatever system you can use for the longest period of time consistently is the one that, literally, I own a tech company, but this is what I use for my personal business, like a notebook and a pen. It works for me. It works for me. And then at the end of the day, I'll just, I'll put these notes into the system that our backend team uses, but this is what works for me on a day in, day out basis. But whatever system you can stick with consistently is the one that you should use. But where ReSimpli adds value is, if you're doing less than 2-3 deals a year, you can probably get by with using, Google Sheets and a Google Voice number. But if you want to, get to like one deal every quarter or one deal every other month, that's where I would say, okay, invest in a system. If you're looking at it as a long term, it's going to be an investment. So the thing for us would be, I'll just say kind of why I started ReSimpli was there were 3 things that had to be true. It had to be a simple to use system where there wasn't a huge learning curve. It had to give us really good data so people could make business decisions based on the numbers. And then third was it had to be an all-in-one software where everyone on my team, from my project manager, my bookkeeper, accountant, acquisition manager, everyone could be on one software. And then we added in, as we grew, we added in tons of automation. So I think the system that you can have where it can do a lot of automations for you. So then the less you have to do, the better, because the automations would not fail. If, a seller might say, hey, call me back at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So you could call the person back. You could just, rely on your memory to call the person back, or you could just have the system set up an automated message to send out. Then you don't have to think about it. Again, it just comes down to mental bandwidth. How much do you want to use? And now imagine doing that over 100 leads, how complicated it would get. So for me, I would say the more automations you can have, at the end of the day, the money is going to be in the follow-up. We have a deal under contract, which was in our pipeline for 400 days. We bought it for 90, put 10 into it. So we're all in for 100. And then we listed it on the market for 185. We have it under contract for 192.5. So after closing costs and everything, I think we'll make, after everything is said and done, about $75,000 net to me. And I just came from follow-up. We didn't do anything exceptional. We just did follow-up. Every month we would either call them or text them. That's it. Nothing, no fancy script, nothing that we're like, oh, this is our secret. It was just follow-up, call, text, just, hey, are you still looking to sell the house? We're still buying in the area. And then like that deal and loan is going to pay for my lifetime of ReSimpli subscription, right? Just that one deal and loan. Now, if you can do that, and that came from the automation. So that part and being able to look at the numbers in your business and make decisions based on the number, especially with your marketing. And also the less software clutter that you have to use, the better, right? You would not use like an Outlook email and then integrate that with a Google Calendar. You could make it work, but is that really necessary? Is that really adding efficiency, right? Or you could use an iPhone for your calls and text, but you would not use a Google phone for Gmail. And you could do that, but is that really adding value to your business? Like, just think of where you can add efficiency, make the process that you have, the systems and processes that you have, make it more streamlined in your business. I think that's where you'll start noticing you have less, decisions that you have to make, the better you'll be able to focus on your business. At least that's what worked for me and thousands of investors that we have using ReSimpli now.
Yeah, I think super underrated is software bloat, where you're like, either one of two things happens. You see something shiny new, look at this AI bot automation thing, like add this, bolt this thing on. Those are prevalent today. And then you just start bolting stuff on, but it doesn't fit in your overall system.
Yeah.
Or you do have a legitimate pain point and you try to just, oh my gosh, I can't think about solving that system or process problem. I'm just going to add a software to it. And then you end up with all these extra softwares that you usually don't need, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then people think that their investing business is so unique, and it's not. I mean, people think that their business is so different, so unique. And 99% of the investors out there, it's very similar business. Like we have, like to this point, we have this update coming later this year where you can add multiple pipelines, fully customized. We don't even have that feature right now. And we have investors, everyone from people that are starting all the way up to investors that are doing 30, 35, 40 deals a month using the exact same pipeline, same number of, columns in your Trello board, and they're doing it working for them. But you have investors coming in saying, oh no, I need a separate pipeline because I'm doing this thing. And they're doing like a couple of deals a month. Like you really don't. Like you could go down the path of hiring developers using Porty or custom Salesforce, but then you have to ask a question to yourself, are you in the business of real estate or are you in the business of tech? Because if you have to hire developers, then the CRM that you're using, they didn't do a good enough job of creating the software. You should not have to hire a developer to fix your CRM. And we notice so many, that's like, we have so many like boomerang users, they'll join and they will see that how simple it is to use, and they feel like it should be more complicated because their business is complicated, which they think it's complicated. Then they'll leave. A couple of months back later, they'll come back and like, oh, I like that everything is simple. It's just very streamlined. And I think people tend to overcomplicate the business that they have, and if they try to simplify it and look at the basic fundamentals of their business, which is you send out marketing, you track your marketing, you hire people, you track their efficiency. And that's like 90% of the business. Of course, there's more advanced things you can do on top. But if you did this like 90%, you will have such a huge advantage over majority of the people in your market that your net profit will go through the roof at that point.
Yep. I know many investors like that who made the jump to a significantly more complex and expensive system. And then after time and money invested, decided I'm just going to go back to what was working.
Yeah.
So you're certainly, I'm sure you've seen that 20-fold. compared to what I've seen. But yeah, that's it, it's like don't overcomplicate things. Let's not
Yeah.
overcomplicate things. I'm curious, because I respect your time here. What do you guys have coming up in ReSimpli? I know that you put all your users like in a community. They basically have access almost directly to you and your team,
Yeah.
and you're taking feedback all the time. And I'm watching you guys implement new things, put things on your path of improvement. I mean, you guys are pretty rapid with the kind of either fixes or upgrades or additions.
Yeah.
It's really impressive how you can manage all that with your users. So where's it at today? What's on the kind of horizon for ReSimpli in terms of the tech and what's powerful today for that CRM?
Yeah, man, that's one thing where we consistently hear back from our users is the speed to the feedback that, the short feedback loop that we have. Like sometimes it doesn't happen always, but a lot of time, and a user would submit a feedback and they would next day in the morning, they would see that feedback implemented. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. I'm like, yeah, it's small enough. We took care of it. So for us, like we're definitely 100% driven by, so I started the business for my own personal need, but it's grown way beyond my personal need. Like I still, everyone on my team uses ReSimpli, but there's tons of things that I don't personally use because I don't have that team size. I do about 25, 30 flips a year. But like what we have coming is based on the feedback that we get from our customers. So we have this thing called like simple filters. It's going to help you stay more on top of your leads. Like you can set up these different triggers, and anytime your lead matches that trigger, it drops in that specific bucket, which personally I'm super excited about. To me, that's going to be our biggest update. Then we have Gmail integration coming. So you don't have to log into Gmail. You can have your emails come directly into ReSimpli. So now you have one less software to log into. And then we have a click to call prospecting feature coming in list stacking. So you upload your list. You don't have to create any campaign. You just click phone number and it just starts dialing just by one simple click. That and a dial pad. That's something a lot of our customers had been asking for, just a simple dial pad. And it comes from like, our customers tell her, hey, I'm using this other software. It would be super cool if you integrate this thing into your software, then I can cancel one more subscription. So we're launching a dial pad. And there's some stuff on the back end to clean up some of our stuff. And then later this year, custom pipelines, multiple pipelines, we're going in that direction. So I'm excited. I mean, we're pretty busy next 4 or 5 months with our roadmap, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I personally, like, you didn't bring that up. I did because I'm in your community and I see like your members are like, Sharad, I like directly at you, Sharad, I need this thing. And you're like, your team is all over it. So cool.
Yeah. Now before this podcast, like I was spend 15, 20 minutes on our Facebook group, answered some of the messages, posted an update, and a lot of people would directly message me. Like they'll send me a direct message on Facebook. I'll make a Loom video, show them, hey, this is kind of what's coming. And then, I'll have like a separate conversation with them, which, they love. And then I get tons of amazing feedback on things that we need to be working on.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I think it's super cool. I think what you're an actual business owner in the real estate space too, which brings a lot more relevance to it. You're not just a tech guy and you don't come from that industry. So if people wanted to look into ReSimpli, it's just ReSimpli.com. And I mean, we'll definitely include a link in the show notes too for people. But would you tell them to go anywhere else? What would you tell them to go look at?
Yeah, I mean, go to ReSimpli.com. We offer free demo. They can book a one-on-one demo. They can sign up for a 30-day trial. If they're not happy with, for some reason, they can just cancel. We want to make sure anybody that's using ReSimpli is happy. Like that's the most important thing, that they're happy with the software that they're using. So if for some reason they're not happy, we want to make sure we offer unlimited onboarding, which they can book a demo and find out more about.
Yeah, it's awesome. Go check out Sharad's team at ReSimpli.com. And I mean, we have quite a few ReSimpli users in our community too. Von Bethel, who I know has been a big proponent, Jameson Worst, a lot of folks in your system that just are, massive fans of it and use it really effectively too. So, hey, thanks, Sharad. I appreciate your time,
Thank
man.
you.
It's super cool that you spent some time with us today out there in sunny California. I'm here in Florida where we've got hurricanes happening. So
Yeah, I hope you and your family are safe. Yeah, I
thanks.
heard. I don't check news, so Shanae actually mentioned it to me that some like hurricanes going through Florida.
Yep. So, hey, we're good. It wasn't that bad. It was more of a tropical storm. But thanks, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
The seven-figure flipping community appreciates it, and I'm sure people get a ton out of this. So thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.